and they put us on salary. We had a band house, and so yeah, for almost 3 years, I was full time in a band, doing an album, did a music video, and toured up and down the West Coast. But then ultimately,
How did you become so fascinated with robotics, engineering, and all these things? And did you know that you wanted to parlay this into a legal profession, or were you thinking that you had a different career path
yeah,
early on?
honestly, I really had no idea what I was going to do early on. I started in college. My dad was a professor of viticulture and enology, as in grape growing and winemaking, but he was a plant biochemist. And so, I kind of followed in his footsteps, and I was doing biochemistry and molecular biology. And I actually had been in a band when I was in high school, and this band signed onto a label, and I actually got an opportunity to quit school for a while. I actually quit school for 2 years in the middle of undergrad and toured up and down the West Coast, and cut an album, and we had a band house. We were on full salary with the label, and that's when I realized that I loved business, and that's what really got me excited about actually doing business instead of, doing some sort of science. And so when that sort of ended, I went back to school, and I knew that I wanted to go to law school and use my technical background to be able to work in law or with business. And so I finished my biochem degree and went to law school, and then realized, hey, because I have this technical background, I can actually sit for the patent bar and become a patent attorney. Because, to be a patent attorney, you have to take a special bar. You have to have a technical background, because I have to understand the inventions of my clients as well, if not better than them. So, I kind of parlayed my biochem degree into being a patent attorney. Ended up then going and getting a master's in electrical engineering, and that's really my practice now, is mostly computer related things, like you're saying, uh, stuff like computer hardware, robotics, things like that.
So what did you see yourself doing originally? I mean, obviously, like, how did you get introduced to law specifically? Because it didn't seem like that was the path you set
Yeah,
out
it was
for.
kind of a circuitous route to becoming a patent attorney in the law. And I even remember early on in my life, I was like, oh, I wouldn't, why would I become an attorney? That makes no sense. Why would I ever do that? It was really just, in a lot of ways, I saw law as a way to work in business. And initially I thought, well, even if I never practice a day in my life as an attorney, I want the skills to be able to, work in business and have the critical thinking of an attorney. And I wanted to go to law school instead of business school. And coming from a band, I kind of had a performative aspect about me, and I thought, hey, maybe I could be a trial attorney, and there were things like that. I saw like shows like Law and Order, and thought, oh yeah, I could do well in the courtroom. Although being a patent attorney, I never go to court. Last time I was in court was when I got sworn in as an attorney. So not a part of my practice at all now.
I was talking to somebody else yesterday who was saying, like, in his 25-year career, he's been to court 3 times, including the time that he was sworn
Yeah.
in. Definitely want to get back to this band thing because I'd be remiss if we didn't discuss it. But before that, you mentioned, you know, deciding to go into law over business school, even though you were, very interested in business. Was it because of your analytic mind and you felt like the law was more scientific? Is that part of it, or what made you choose law over, getting your MBA in business or marketing or
I
something
just felt
else?
like law was going to be better for analytical thinking, and kind of a harder degree in a lot of ways. The more of a challenge, and something that I could parlay into a lot of different things. I could be a practicing attorney, I could be a CEO, I could go in house at a company, work at firms. Whereas if you just have a business degree, it's more limited. I could do all the things with a business degree and more. And in a lot of ways, I've always been entrepreneurial, and so I kind of have taught myself a lot of the business sort of stuff. And so I was kind of looking for more like the analytical thinking and being able to potentially practice as an attorney.
So let's rewind a little bit. You did mention this band. I got to ask a lot of questions. What kind of music did you play? How did you meet your bandmates? How did you reach the decision that you were going to actually quit school to pursue music? Let's start
Yeah,
there.
so it started out, it was me and four friends. We had an a cappella group. We started in sixth grade, and we were doing one song for like a school play. And we kept on doing it all the way through junior high and high school. And we actually did a couple albums. And it was just a cappella, just four guys doing a cappella. And the label that well, they weren't a label at that point. The recording studio that we were working with to do our second album, they were starting the label, and they really liked what we had going on, but realized a cappella is really niche. and they said, well, hey, we want to sign you as sort of our, our flagship band, but you need to kind of make it more of a pop thing. So we started playing instruments. We added some girls to the band. So it was 6-part vocals with guitar, bass, keyboard, drums, and I did turntables. And so we turned it kind of more to a pop band. And that sort of developed over time. And it was kind of after I was a couple years into undergrad, that's when they said, hey, we want you to go full time. And they put us on salary. We had a band house. And so, yeah, for, almost 3 years, I was full time in a band, doing an album, did a music video and toured up and down the West Coast. But then ultimately, the label had a lot of money, but not a lot of connections. And so they just couldn't get us, the radio play they wanted. And they were hoping to get our video on MTV, and that never happened. And so, that ended up kind of falling apart at some time. Great experience, but, something that just, ran its course at some point.
How did your parents react when you told them that you were going to quit college to to join an a cappella band or tour as with your friends since sixth grade?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a great question. So, my parents were really, really supportive, which is, and because they trust me and want me to do interesting things with my life, but at the same time they were totally scared, especially my dad, who like I said, he was a college professor, and he's school is really important, and he was very supportive, and supportive in the sense that he didn't say anything negative, but I know that he was really, really scared and worried about. Oh yeah, totally. But they never said anything negative about it, and knew that I kind of needed to take my own path and trusted me. But yeah, I give them a lot of credit for not being negative about it. When it's really scary to just like bail out of undergrad in the middle and go and be a part of a band. It was at the time it was probably really risky to them.
I mean, there's a lot of impressive things there. I mean, number one, that you've had friends from sixth grade all the way to college that were all on the same page, like all of you were able to convince your parents that this is okay in order to do it. So very impressive. And maybe at a different time, there would have been more of a demand for your type of music. Really cool though. So what did it feel like once you had to go back to college? I'm going to use the word had in quotations. Like, what was that decision like? The band didn't work out and you're just like, okay, well, at that point, might as well go back and finish my degree. Is that what was the thinking was?
Yeah, exactly. So if anything, I went back to school and I was completely motivated. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, because before, I went to high school and then went to college because that's what you do. And, I was kind of majoring in some stuff and I wasn't super excited about it. I thought, well, maybe I'll go to med school, or maybe I'll, become a professor. And I didn't really have a direction, but I came out of the band thing just super focused. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to law school, and I really just then powered through undergrad. It really, I mean, it was a matter of weeks. The band thing sort of ran its course, and I quit that, and then I was actually back in classes 2 weeks later, and I was just super focused at that point. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and like I said, like that was so important and so formative to me. That really is what I feel like focused me on, what I wanted to do, kind of next steps in life. I didn't necessarily know I wanted to be a patent attorney. But I was really motivated and knew what I wanted to do with my life at that point.
So how did you get into, patent law? I mean, you obviously sat through the exam, and were you working as an attorney prior to sitting for the patent bar, or did you just go all the way through and then start working?
Yeah, so to be a patent attorney, you like I said, you have to take this patent bar exam, and so you can take it as long as you have an undergrad degree in
science.
in science or engineering something. You can take it at any time, and you're what's called a patent agent. And so I actually, in my first semester of law school, studied for the patent bar and passed it out. I started out as a patent agent, and initially I was like, hey, I'll just have this, and maybe I'll be able to get a job. But people sort of heard that I'd done this. And then people started referring me clients, and so I was like, "Well, okay, fine. I'll create a firm." So I created my own practice for a while I was in law school. And then there was another guy who had done the same thing. He was a year ahead of me in law school, and he said, "Hey, why don't we join together? Let's create a firm together." So we created this firm. We had like offices downtown. We had staff, and we even had an attorney working with us doing business stuff. And so in a lot of ways, I was doing almost the same stuff that I do now while I was in law school. And had this firm that ended up breaking up just because he graduated earlier. He became an attorney, and there was issues with attorney, non-attorney profit sharing. But yeah, I kind of was able to practice in a lot of ways. starting, at the end of my first year in law school. It was kind of fun.
So, okay, so you started a business your first year of law school. I'm imagining that's the first business you've ever started, correct?
Yeah, aside from the band and, kind of little side projects. Yeah, that was the first major business. Yeah.
How did you balance, because it seems like this business went on for a couple of years and you were getting clients. How did you
Yeah.
balance, studying for law school, which can obviously be very demanding. Many people decide not to work during law school while running a business. It's one thing to be an employee of a company, but another thing to run a business at the same time. I mean, was it a growing business? Was it a successful business? Obviously, it dissolved, but what was that like, that balance?
I loved my practice, and so that was my focus. That's what sort of drove me to to finish law school. And it's like, hey, I just want to be done with this so that I can practice more. And it was just a good balance because I don't know if you know about law school. It's very, I don't know, like theoretical and analytical and books and
Practical application.
yeah, being able to work with clients and be able to work with technology and just be in business like that. That's what I really enjoyed. And so it was sort of that was the thing that I really wanted to be doing. And especially the second year of law school gets a little bit easier. First year, it was really hard to have a balance. But yeah, second and third year, you can kind of it's easier to put school on the back burner, and I was able to get the grades that I needed to get, and take easier classes and things like that, and do externships and things like that. So I was able to keep a balance, but it was definitely hard, but it was easy to do just because it was really fun.
Mhm. So you enjoyed it, and that's kind of what drove you to complete
Yeah.
your degree with you were motivated. What was your first, I'm going to call it external job, outside of the business that you ran once you graduated?
So, like I said, so that one firm ended up breaking up just because like I had a bunch of clients and stuff, and just because of the attorney non-attorney profit sharing thing, and so I sort of transferred all my clients to a boutique firm, and that was sort of my first job.
Started your job with a book to a certain degree?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
So
were they
kind of
like reoccurring, was it reoccurring revenue? Were these transactional clients? What were they?
So, as a patent attorney, my focus is on planning patent protection, drafting and filing patent applications at the USPTO, and then working them through the examination process. And so, a lot of these clients, they were at various stages of the patent process. And a lot of times, I'd filed a patent application for them, and it takes typically 1 to 3 years before the examination process begins. So we sort of had a lot of these folks in the pipeline already that we'd filed patent applications, and then a year or so later, then the examination process would begin. So I had a lot of clients like that who examination would pop up, or they had new inventions. We filed new patent applications, and there were always new clients coming in. So I started out with it wasn't a great book of business, but it was something. And I think that was one of the things that firm liked. It's like, hey, we don't have to keep you quite as busy. You have your own clientele, and you're growing your own book.
So you were able to bring your existing clients and just kind of use the resources that this firm had, as opposed to them giving you clients and, having to pay you for time that otherwise you'd have to market yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And although they definitely did give me a lot of work, and that was really why I wanted to join a firm. I thought about, hey, I could just kind of stay off on my own and have my own firm, or start another firm. But I really wanted to work with people who'd been doing it for a long time and get some mentorship and get access to bigger clients. That was a lot of it too. Is I kind of had a lot of small individual inventors and really small startups, but I really want to learn how to do patent practice for large companies as well, and that's kind of what I wanted access to, and got with merging with another firm.
How did you get your clients? I know that you're saying they're smaller, but were you marketing? They just coming organically? Like, how did you get in front of the first group of clients that chose to work with you?
In the beginning, just we were trying everything. One of the things we did, and I certainly don't do this now, but we put ads on Craigslist and put it like in every city. Since and because we are because patents are federal, I can represent clients literally around the country, around the world. I've had clients in Europe, even in Cuba before. So I really, I'm not jurisdictionally limited like a lot of attorneys are. So yeah, we started off, putting ads in Craigslist and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. And like some of the worst clients ever came out of that. You get weird calls from people, but at the time,
Attorneys aren't marketing on Craigslist, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So, we had a website and, but, that was a way to, kind of build the book from the very beginning and just get experience with, just learning how to handle clients and learning how to, bring them on just that whole process. It was such an important thing to do because I wouldn't be able to be where I am now if I didn't learn how to handle clients, kind of in that early stage. And I always kind of tell people who are coming up and being attorneys is, hey, you really need to, practice in a lot of ways. You don't just land these big clients and know how to handle them. You have to sort of learn and, have some experience. And starting with small clients is a good way to begin.
The clients that the firm was helping you get, the bigger ones, what kind of cases were you working on? And, obviously it's stuff that you wouldn't have gotten on your own. They have their own clients and everything like that. Do you remember your first notable piece of work that they handed you to work on?
The firm that I was working with, they represented a big sort of technology company here in Seattle that did a lot of like audio stuff, audio video stuff. And so I helped them with their patent portfolio, probably working on, few hundred patent applications related to like audio and video processing. That was a big one. And they're, definitely not as big now, but they were really a big name kind of back in 2000, 2009, kind of that time. Yeah. And that was like so exciting. It's like, it was a big kind of like, had a startup atmosphere and had these cool offices. And it was just like so awesome to be able to, work with a client like that. At the time it was just like so exciting.
So what made you ultimately leave that firm?
I kind of wanted to move to another firm. There were the opportunities were sort of starting to dry up there, and I saw more opportunity at sort of a larger boutique firm. And so then I moved my practice at that point to another boutique firm.
And were you finding that they were able to help you grow your practice, continue growing your practice, or not so much?
It ended up being kind of stagnating in some ways, and that's actually what motivated me then to go back to school and get my master's in electrical engineering. Just because I always had difficulty having companies want to bring me on because, my technical background didn't match the work that I was doing and wanted to do, which was computer stuff. Been doing computers for almost all my life. I've been building web pages, so I was very comfortable with that sort of subject matter. And
Degree.
yeah, exactly. And so I just didn't have the right degree, sort of the street cred to be able to show that I could do the work. And so it was sometimes hard to put me in front of clients and hard for me to go find clients like that. And so when I was at that firm, I was like, yeah, like what should I do? And it's like, it seemed to make sense to go back and get a master in electrical engineering. And that made a huge difference. Like actually, once I was even in the program, then I started to kind of pass my resume around and immediately got an offer from this really huge firm called Oric, which is, one of the largest firms, in the country. It's like, so suddenly I was starting to really get traction with my practice, and it was a lot easier to, bring on bigger clients doing computer stuff. And I sort of had that street cred then that said that I could work on that stuff, even though, I was able to do it before. And not to say that, my master's wasn't helpful, but, I was able to do the work before, just as much as I am able to do it now.
So did you decide to work with Oric?
I worked with Oric for a long time, but they're mostly a litigation shop. And, I kind of got in there and, I realized a patent practice like mine where you're doing the drafting applications and the examination process, that's like a secondary or tertiary practice focus, and I was never going to be able to make partner at a firm like Oric. I would have probably had to move to the New York office and become a patent litigator, and that's just not something I wanted to do. And I loved Oric, really great people, really great firm, but I knew long term that I just wasn't going to be able to become partner and really grow my practice there. They didn't really have quite the infrastructure that I needed to really grow a practice, and that's when I moved my practice at Davis Wright Tremaine. And I've been here ever since. And I plan to be here, for the rest of my career. I think it's a great firm, great people, great infrastructure. So I'm really happy here. I kind of bounced around for a while for various reasons, but yeah, I think I'll be here, the rest of my career. I don't see any reason for leaving.
Tell us a little bit about the firm and what made it a better fit compared to some of the others. I understand Nick and an Oric may have been, small fish in a big pond type of thing. And, some of the other firms might have been too small, but what made this the Goldilocks firm for you?
A lot of it was the right infrastructure. So the way to do patent practice right, you have to have it staffed the right way. And there was a new partner who had really been growing the practice and been making some big changes in the patent group. And I could really see that he wanted to build something great, and was a really great guy, really great leader. And so that was what really attracted me to Davis Wright Tremaine. In addition to the name, I mean, it's one of those AMLAW 100 firms and really well known in the Pacific Northwest. And so it seemed like a really good fit, and has ended up being amazing for me.
And how many people were in the group?
It wasn't that big of a group. It was only maybe 10 people in the group, but now we have like 40 something people in the patent group. Yeah. I mean, more like probably like 50 now. Yeah, it's really blown up in the last several years. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more clips from this podcast, you can see the full playlist right here, and we've got the full podcast right here. And please like the video on your way out so we can have it seen by more people. Thanks.